After I have made a video on Harmon Smith, I truly do feel bad when I go back and watch it because I feel like it's almost not even fair to be reacting to him as much as I do. But then when he comes out with a new video, that feeling goes out the window. So let's get into it.
I really wanted to come on and make this video immediately, but unfortunately, I was sick and in bed for a good chunk of the day. So
oh, did that Pikachu plushie help you through your sickness? Did it, Harmon? I think it's time that you got a new plushie.
I have only just now recovered. I've gotten back from running my errands and doing things and just had time to process this.
Harmon, when you came after Gara, you sat there and said that you spend over 20 hours on a weekend alone playing video games. So we all know you have plenty of time on your hands to process things.
Okay, this has to be the single worst hot take I've seen about the Switch 2 this week,
I mean, is it really, Harmon? Come on here. We're talking about the packaging of the Switch 2. I wasn't even going to give my opinion because I didn't really see it worth it. But again, Harmon Smith just had to sit here and make this video. In my personal opinion, I do kind of side with Wood. I do think it is very similar. Yeah, there is a 2 on there. So if you know how to read, you probably might. But I could sit there and see quite a few people accidentally grabbing the wrong one. Now, hopefully, there's going to be some good retail people there that could help them out to distinguish between the two, but I would have also liked to have seen the packaging difference. It does look very similar.
I have to say this week, because there's been so many bad takes, especially when the console was first formally unveiled. It's been
Harmon, you have no room to talk when it comes to bad takes. I mean, I can count the countless bad takes you've had. Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, From Software. How about Princess Peach Showtime? I swear that one's at the top of the list when it comes to bad takes from you.
A huge maelstrom of just insane hot takes from all of these spurgs desperate to try and paint some kind of narrative against Nintendo.
I mean, this is Woods from Beat 'em Up, who's literally one of the poster boys for Nintendo. You're going to sit there and say he's trying to paint a narrative to go against Nintendo? He literally sat there and said that the packaging looks the same. The only real difference, I think, is that it has that 2 on there.
They're trying to be the guy who kind of normalizes hating this console. And
just because he spoke out against your precious Princess Peach Showtime and Mario and Luigi Brothership doesn't mean he was spreading hate about the console.
They've been throwing all kinds of things at the wall. They've been talking about the power, the controls, the lack of innovation,
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about the controls, I hope the controllers work for this system, because the ones for the Switch 1, those were terrible. I've had many consoles throughout my life. Now, I have had controllers before, like the PS1, N64, Super Nintendo, all those type of controllers that had cords to them. I've had many of those break on me, which generally was because of the cord itself. But when it came to the cordless controllers, when we started getting Bluetooth, those ones, the only one I've ever had actually get stick drift was the Switch 1.
The launch release schedule, there's been all sorts of things they've talked about. I've seen people complain about the screen protectors. I've seen people complain about the price being too high and how no one would buy it.
Oh, Harmon, no one was sitting there saying over here that the price was too high and no one was going to buy it. If they were saying that, it was because they were worried about the tariffs and the tariffs were going to jack the price up. You're just lucky that never happened.
And then the same people turned around and started complaining about not being able to get a pre-order, right? So there's been a lot of weird, nonsensical things.
Well, there were a lot of people that couldn't get a pre-order in. You almost didn't even get your pre-order in. But because we're talking about the packaging, how funny would it be? I can see this happening. He goes in, gets his pre-order. They accidentally hand him a Switch 1. He brings it home thinking it's a Switch 2, starts up his live stream because he's going to do an unboxing for it. How funny would that be if he's talking to everybody, acting like he's so excited to open up the Switch 2, and someone comments saying, it's a Switch 1, right?
Going around as of late. But this, 100%, has to be the worst. I can't think of anything that's more retarded than this specific take from beat 'em ups.
Oh, I can think of something right now. I think many people can think of something right now that looks way more retarded. I'm gonna leave that up for them to decide.
The Nintendo Switch 2 has confusing packaging.
Well, I mean, it actually kind of does. The only difference is it has a big 2 on it, but it still looks very similar. The design, the color, everything looks similar to the Switch 1. They really didn't do that good of a job. I mean, they did a very good job to distinguish between a Switch 2 game and a Switch 1 game, but I don't know why they didn't do that for the console itself.
This guy is really going out there making tweets suggesting that consumers are going to be confused.
I think most gamers aren't going to get confused, but I do think there are some people, like people that do not play video games, whether their parents, grandparents, whatever, they want to buy it as a gift for the kid or grandkid. I think they might get confused, but usually, it's pretty rare for me to go into a store and they're not locked behind something. So I'm pretty certain that they're going to be like, oh, well, I want to buy the new Switch. Because I don't think some people might want to still buy a Switch 1. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
About the Nintendo Switch 2 being on the same store shelves as the Nintendo Switch. Now, if this sounds familiar, it should, because this is the same playbook they did back during the Wii U and the 3DS days, where the
Wii U and the Wii look completely different. Just looking at the damn systems, I don't see how they could sit there and get those confused. Now, the 3DS and the 2DS, yeah, I can kind of understand that one.
YouTubers and journals push this narrative that the Wii U and 3DS would be confusing.
Well, for one, the 2DS and 3DS look very similar. Now with the Wii U and the Wii, I just looked them up, but you can completely tell a huge difference. Number one has a big ass tablet on it. The other one doesn't. But I think what most people thought is that tablet was just an accessory to the Wii.
To consumers. So instead of doing their job and actually explaining to people the difference between those consoles,
Well, Harmon, have you ever sat there and actually done retail type work? When you're getting slammed and you're busy, you got to kind of move it along a little bit. So if they sit there and say, hey, I need to get a Nintendo Switch, they're most likely just going to grab that Switch. Now, if they're good, and it's in the beginning, they're probably going to ask, well, are you talking about the Switch or the Switch 2?
They push this idea that it's too confusing, nobody's going to buy it.
No, I don't think that people aren't going to sit there and buy it. They might accidentally buy the wrong one, but I still truly hope that store person hands you the wrong one. You go home without checking it, and you don't realize till you get home that it's actually the Switch 1 instead of the Switch 2. That will be such karma right there.
That was a big narrative, especially during the Wii U days. And it's very important to note that there was, curiously enough, no confusion about the Xbox One.
Well, when it came to the whole Xbox One, that was because of the name. I don't think that was because of the packaging. I could be wrong. I didn't sit there and really look it up, but had already been a Xbox One, so no one understood after the 360 why they called it an Xbox One. But the thing about Xbox, we've all just sat there and accepted that Xbox don't know how to name their consoles properly.
Which, by the way, is an objectively worse name than the Wii U. People don't like addressing this.
God damn it, Microsoft, why do you have to make me agree with Harmon? You know how much I hate having to admit that Harmon is right, but in this case, Harmon, you are correct. The Xbox One was way worse of a name than the Wii U.
But this has been a huge cope when it comes to Nintendo consoles for a long time, is this idea that people would be confused by the branding. I've seen people complain about the existence of the Wii Mini. I've seen people.
Well, when it comes to the Wii Mini, or you can look at even the PS2, PS2 Slims, PS3. I believe there was a PS3 Slim. I can see why they would be confused about it. Those things are very easy to confuse.
It's just a gigantic cope.
All right, so he said one of the things. He said giant cope. Let's hope that he's going to say the reality of the situation. I have been waiting for you to say that, Harmon. You have not said that line in such a long time.
So you have Woody over here, naming himself after a PKA host.
Okay, for one, his name is Woods, and from what I've heard, that's actually his real name. His real name is Woody or Woods, if I remember correctly. Now, I don't know that for certain. I'm not going to go fact check it, but that's just what I heard.
The one that everyone hates. You have beat-em-ups coming out here saying well, people are going to be confused by the fact that it's that the packaging looks similar, and it's just.
I mean, he is kind of right. I think people are just making way too big of a deal about this, to be honest. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. But, I mean, technically he is right. There will be some people who are going to get confused. It would not surprise me on launch day if a retail person accidentally hands out the wrong system, confusing the two. I can see that happening.
it's just such a gigantic coat. Because can you not see that there's a gigantic 2 on top of it?
I mean, it's not exactly on top of it. It's like next to it. You know, when you see the Nintendo Switch, the 2 is next to the Nintendo Switch. Don't know if you realize that, Harmon.
Like, can you not process your meager mind around this? That people aren't going to go out and buy a Switch 1 if they're specifically looking for a Switch 2. You know, like, you really think people are going to think it's a revision or that they don't need it? Or like,
Harmon, you're taking this way too seriously. This is not that big of a deal. This is not a hill to die on. I understand that you have to defend Nintendo at every damn corner, but you're literally letting your day get ruined because someone said that the packaging was similar, which it is.
Like, what are you talking about? Nobody is going to go to a store looking to buy a Switch 2 and then come away with a Switch 1, right? It's just not going to happen.
I'm still holding out hope that it happens to you. I will find that so funny.
People don't know what they want, and that we saw some confusion when the Wii U came out. Like,
well, I mean that the confusion between the Wii and the Wii U was people thought that the Wii U, that was an accessory to the Wii. They didn't think that it was an actual new console.
Bro, like, I was there when the Wii U came out. Like, I know perfectly well that game store employees were straight up lying to people about Wii U, telling them that it was an accessory,
Well, they probably didn't know because it's not like the game store employees know every single thing about a Nintendo console or about any type of console for that matter. So they probably looked at it and thought, yeah, it is an accessory. When you look at the packaging, I can see why so many people thought it was an accessory, and they were like, I ain't paying that price for an accessory, so I completely understand.
Game journals were doing this, right? It had nothing to do with like what Nintendo was doing at all. It was entirely like an op on the floor of these like gaming stores. The Microsoft and Sony paid for like the store space so that PlayStation and Xbox were front and center while Nintendo stuff was shoved in a corner, right?
Well, that just sounds like good marketing on Sony and Microsoft's part. I have said this before many a times. Nintendo is very bad at marketing. As you can see, you're literally proving my point here, Harmon.
That's the reality of the situation. Retailers...
Haha, you heard it. He finally said it. Thank you, Harmon. I've been waiting for that. I haven't heard you say the reality of the situation in a while.
Had an incentive to push Xbox and PlayStation over Nintendo stuff. So, like, again...
Well, it sounds like Nintendo made some very poor business decisions. Obviously, Sony and Xbox made some good business decisions. Harmon, that's called marketing. You know that Nintendo could have done the same thing.
Over the past decade, that's no longer an issue because of the rise of online retailers and things of that nature. The Nintendo Directs, it's very, very hard for retailers to confuse consumers like they did 10 years ago.
Oh, I didn't even think about the online retailers. That's going to be worse. Imagine when people accidentally type in a Switch and they accidentally buy the first Switch instead of the Switch 2. Oh, I can see that one happening.
Right, but Woody is seriously going to come out here and try and tell people that people are going to be confused by the similar looking packaging of Switch 1.
Harmon, again, you're taking this way too seriously. This is just some healthy criticism from Wood. Are you kidding me? Woods isn't sitting there trying to do a personal attack on Nintendo. He loves Nintendo. Like I say, he is the poster boy. He is the golden child for Nintendo. And he's just making some healthy criticism because they do look similar. There's no doubt about it. Yes, one does have a 2 on it, but they do look very similar. And still, I really hope that the store clerk, when they hand you your pre-order, I really hope that it is the Switch 1 and you accidentally take it home.
And Switch 2. Again, this is, I think...
Well, it's a good thing you don't get paid to think.
A really good example of just how desperate the Pretendo community is to keep the narrative negative. Because
no, it's not. This is just healthy criticism, Harmon. You need to learn to take it also.
You just know that, he really had to reach for that one. He had to, think to himself, oh...
Harmon, Woods is a very busy person. He has a lot of stuff going on. I don't think he just woke up and said, let me see if I can stir up some controversy today.
What can I do? How can I downplay this console? I'll just complain about, the packaging. It's
Harmon, Woods is a huge Nintendo fan. He's going to end up buying every Switch 2 bundle that comes out. I think he did it with the Switch 1.
You know, especially considering like the industry narrative right now, which is not true, by the way. The idea that like the PlayStation 2 is the best-selling console of all time, you know.
Because it is 160 million units versus the Switch 1 at 152 currently. Now, one day the Switch 2 could sit there and outsell it, but at this moment, it's not going to happen.
By the way, is not true, as I mentioned earlier.
Facts say otherwise, Harmon.
Like, the PS2 is not the best-selling title ever made, console ever made.
Do you have any facts to back those up, Harmon?
You know, nobody ever was confused by the PlayStation 1 going into the PS2, and yet we're supposed to believe...
Harmon, literally, the PlayStation was white, the PS2 was black. When you sit there and looked at the packaging for the PlayStation, it said PlayStation on it. For the PS2, it said PS2. People don't generally call it a PlayStation 2. So there was a huge difference. There was no way. I mean, you trying to compare that to the Switch 1 to Switch 2 is idiotic at its finest right there. The packaging is completely different.
That people are going to be confused about the Switch 2 being a thing. It's like, it's so...
I mean, we know you will.
Insanely stupid and so out of touch with reality. And like, I am very glad to see that like more and more people are calling out beat-em-ups on his nonsense.
Harmon, you like anything when it comes to anybody calling something out that goes against your precious Nintendo. We all know it. Come on.
I do think it's safe to say, you know, after this and like the debacle with like Mario and Luigi Brother Trip, you know, this is my official Harmon Smith take.
Oh yes, because your take is so important to the world. Well, that's it for my reaction. There's like a minute and a half left. You guys can go finish watching if you really want to, but I am done. I approve my point. But that's it for my reaction. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with me or not. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay vigilant.